Yeah, this is Scot Nicol. We're sitting here at the Sea Otter Classic. I'm the guy who founded Ibis back in 1981, way back in the day, probably before most of you were born who was going to watch this thing. Anyway, what we have here is a Mojo HD. Just really started shipping the bike last week. Today, Brian Lopes raced this in the pro downhill, got third overall. He's an old guy like me too. He's 38, racing against the young punks. Did pretty darn good on the HD. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the bike right now. It's a 160 millimeter travel bike, great all mountain bike, and 160 mil front fork on this one, Talus. It's also can be configured with the Talus 180. They got those sweet new 180, 140 travel Taluses. Fox used this bike for their new media launch for all the 2011 product here at the Sea Otter just a couple of days ago. The bike has about a 67-degree head angle with this 160 Talus, and with the 180 Talus it goes to 66. So it's a fun bike riding downhill. But the beauty of the HD is that it's only a 6.2 pound frame, and it's got a DW Link suspension, so this bike pedals really well. 28 pounds, as you see it outfitted here. We've gotten them a lot lighter than that. And of course, we've gotten them heavier than that, depending on what we use. The DW Link features an RP23 shock. It's an air shock. The suspension is designed for the ramp on the air shock at the end. It's got a falling rate suspension, so it gives you a really linear feel. Feels like it's got a coil shock, actually. It's chain guide compatible. The lower link down here has a bolt that you can use a mini G2 guide from MRP, and it's really sweet setup if you want to run a single ring. You can also run dual ring setups with various manufacturers like E13 and other people. The head tube is an 1.5-inch taper, by the way, super rigid. Torsionally, it just doesn't move anywhere at all. So the bike is really precise. Of course, there's a 20 mil through axle with all the 36 forks. There's also a 12 millimeter maxle on the back. So this thing, all of that combined with the bearing links are dual row angular contact bearings, super stiff. So the whole thing, it's all carbon fiber monocoque. Layup is ultra stiff. Makes for a really precise riding bike. We can go 160 or 180 on the rear brake rotors, and we always use 180 on the front, but you can go bigger than that with the Talus, of course. We got a Joplin on this one. You can set it up with any of the dropper posts that you want, and you can also run a DHX Air on this, and we're looking at some coil options too, which could work. We'll tell you about those later, but we're not quite ready to release all that info. But anyway, that's it. The Mojo HD, 160 millimeters for rear wheel travel, 160 on the front of this, but you can go to a 180, and it's a rockin' bike.